We're not the richest city in the country. We're far from it. We're one of the poorest. Yet we got the highest taxes in the country.
This has got to come to an end.
The most dangerous city in Connecticut.
This is not why I ran for office.
You can't afford to live anywhere else.
Who do you represent in this community?
We are not truly a great nation until all of us are strong.
Take that flag down at the front of City Hall that says All-American City. Who do you think you are fooling?
In Bridgeport, Connecticut, there are forgotten neighborhoods and policies that have failed. No different than what many other small cities are struggling with across America.
The percentage of children here in Bridgeport living in poverty jumped to 40% last year.
This city is resilient, a former manufacturing enclave that prides itself on hard work, determination, and the guarantee of a stable middle class. With changing demographics, one of the highest tax rates in the nation, and an electorate that is searching for answers, the narrative of Bridgeport will be defined over the next 6 months in the race for mayor.
Today, Joseph Ganim put the rumors to rest, officially launching another bid to run Connecticut's largest city.
Joe Ganim was mayor of Bridgeport for more than 11 years, even longer than he spent in prison.
Once considered a Democratic rising star, Ganim fell after his 2003 conviction on federal corruption and bribery charges while mayor. But he claims his past has prepared him for another run.
When people talk about the word redemption, what do they mean? Is it as easy as owning up to your previous mistakes?
I made some errors in judgment. I got involved in wrong things and I broke the law.
Or as hard as putting the past behind you and looking for a second act that many people are too scared to chase?
I want to make right the areas where I did make mistakes. I don't know a better motivator for good quality, transparent, and effective government.
Running against the incumbent mayor, Bill Finch, who has held the office for the last 8 years.
I'm not afraid of anybody running for office now.
Ganim's mission is not your average political campaign.
Taxes continue to go up, schools, the quality of schools continue to go down. It's been a city that's kind of floundered at best in mediocrity. People have come up to me when I got re-engaged and to say, hey Joe, would you consider it?
In early May, Ganim announced with confidence that he was running and laid out early initiatives of why the people of Bridgeport should trust him again.
Mayor Finch and his surrogates want to make this election about things in the past. Right. Yeah. But it really is about the future, and it's about you. I think we also need to remind them that it's a referendum on him and what he has done and what he's failed to do.
On May 9th, another neighborhood in Bridgeport erupted in violence, leaving a 22-year-old father dead from gunshot wounds.
I've been living in Bridgeport for 25 years. This stuff happens all the time.
Not enough people telling me, oh, crime is down, but every day somebody's getting shot in this city.
With random shootings on the rise and tension within the police department,
Bridgeport police are down 70 officers, and the department is feeling the effects.
The issues of the direction of the city have taken on strategic importance early on in the campaign.
I'm very concerned that we've underfunded and now allowed to undermanned the Bridgeport Police Department. We need to commit to making this a better city.
In cities across the country, the mechanics and inner workings of politics, crime, law enforcement, and the economy define how we live today and the battles that are being fought at the street level to change them.
This is real. These are real things that are happening in the city that you don't just turn the page of the newspaper and say, okay, that happened, that was yesterday, what are we going to do today, and what's tomorrow look like?
City Wars, the television series, will go inside the race for the mayor of Bridgeport, told in real time, and following Joe Ganim as he not only seeks redemption for himself, but for a city with endless potential. In the early morning hours of Thursday, June 11th, 9 people were shot and 1 killed in the Trumbull Gardens housing project.
I thought it was firecrackers, but then I heard people screaming.
I just heard a bunch of gunshots. I just saw everybody running, a bunch of chaos. I knew something really bad happened.
Let's just bow our heads in a moment of silence and just think for peace, for the families, for the victims, for this community, for this city.
This is not an isolated incident. These things are happening up here every other week.
I can go down the list, name by name, cousin by cousin, person by person. And I haven't seen too much done.
These shootings in Bridgeport made local and national headlines, but at the root of the violence is failed public policy and problems that are systemic in urban areas across the United States.
We need more public officials to come out and see what's going on and see what needs to be changed.
We need more freaking cars on the road.
Oh, I know. No, and you know I get that. I'd have everybody up here walking.
Well, we don't have anybody.
I know.
We don't have anybody who wants to pay.
They don't want to hire.
And I think that the delegation from Bridgeport, the governor, and the mayor of the city of Bridgeport should be charged with neglect.
These shootings allow for voices to be heard, but when the cameras are turned off and people leave neighborhoods like Trumbull Gardens, what solutions are there?
There is certainly not a feeling with the couple thousand people or so that I've actually physically touched or talked to that it's not a city that works for everyone, that people don't feel a part of it and are not included.
In national news outlets, Mayor Finch and U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal made the shootings an issue about federal gun laws and not about the problems pointed out by community members.
The citizens of Bridgeport are tired for paying for national inaction on illegal guns. We need to do a much better job in this country controlling illegal weapons.
It begs the question, is the loss of another human life a chance at political theater or real pragmatic solutions?
Despite today, we've had an overall drop in crime of about 18%, and this is about the lowest crime rate we've had in nearly a half century.
The backdrop of 9 individuals getting shot in the city, 1 dead, and saying crime is down. I mean, to me, that shows a complete insensitivity to what's going on in the streets and neighborhoods in the city.
We've been having community meetings talking about no place for our kids to play, the lack of police presence.
And what we really need is a vision for Trumbull Gardens. Not just Steel Point, but a vision for Trumbull Gardens.
As the city and the media was consumed with the shooting inside Trumbull Gardens, the business of politics and the campaign for mayor continued.
This city is on the way up. After decades of broken promises, construction is finally happening at Steel Point.
We need to do something in the city of Bridgeport. We need to change this. We need to make it a Bridgeport that works for everyone, that's inclusive. We need somebody that understands the challenges, that's been there, that can get the job done.
Lenny Grimaldi has been covering Bridgeport as a journalist and writer for more than 30 years. He also has worked for both Bill Finch and Joe Ganim, and understands how each approach the management of a city.
Those two sit down. Ganim wants to talk about practical politics. Bill wants to talk about public policy. They're two very, very different things. What you're seeing right now is this collision course between passion and progress. Is it going to be the Ganim passion that wins out, or is it going to be the Finch progress that wins out?
In the United States, running for public office has become an economic transaction that requires deep pockets and the branding expertise of Madison Avenue.
These things tend to be won on paid media, but that's why money is so important, because when you have money, you can control your own narrative, you control your own message.
In the 2016 race for president, it is estimated that the potential candidates will spend close to $100 million to even get elected. In the race for the mayor of Bridgeport, the monetary stakes are a bit lower.
The financial support is critical. It allows us to get our message out. But I will tell you this here and now, it'll allow us to respond to their message.
Joe needs probably about $200,000 to really do what he needs to do to try to persuade voters to bring him back. By the time the primary rolls around, Finch will probably have $500,000 or more.
With the opening of the Ganim headquarters in early June, the next key phase of the campaign will come down to securing votes from the Democratic Town Committee.
On July 21st, the 90 members of the Democratic Town Committee will come together to endorse a candidate for mayor.
I do know that there's enough that he doesn't have it and I don't have it at this point. But I have a substantial amount of committed support, and I'm sure he has a substantial amount of committed support.
In an editorial in the Connecticut Post, Ganim outlined some of his political agenda and pointed out the positives of the work he did for the city when he was mayor.
I held the line on taxes. That's my tax record. I'm to come that I did improve the quality of education in the schools where he's challenged and decimated the schools. The development projects that he's taken credit for were my projects.
As the campaign hit its stride, Ganim hit the north end of Bridgeport to go door to door to not only register voters, but to introduce the idea of his run for mayor.
I got a good track record on the good stuff. I mean, nobody else kept the taxes down for 10 years.
That's right.
Nobody did. Certainly there's a redemption story in this, but once you get past the redemption story, which may be my story and the city's story in many ways, it's really about people that want a better quality of life, and it's going to be, what is Joe Ganim going to do for the city of Bridgeport?
With Ganim going on the offensive, the question remains, what will Finch's campaign run on?
Their message is not going to be about the good things that they've done over the past 8 years, because frankly there isn't a lot. It's going to be about knock down and tear down the kind of negative politics that I think we all despise.
To date, the only public strategy has been to harken back to Ganim's past, but how long will the citizens of Bridgeport listen to the same campaign rhetoric?
Since I took office, the police department's crime reduction strategy has led to a 30% reduction in overall crime.
It's twice as bad as it was 6 months ago in shootings and shooting victims.
We're investing in putting more cops on the street.
And we can put blame elsewhere, why the police department is down 100 and something men.
We're able to raise funds to buy back the guns to keep our police officers safer.
Front and center, for better or for worse, is public safety in the city of Bridgeport.
In the local news media, the candidates for mayor are jabbing back and forth over issues of public safety and the right strategy for police in the city.
What we need now is to have the overall support, I think, of a city administration that has dropped the ball.
In early July, the police union of the Bridgeport Police Department, in a resounding vote, endorsed Joe Ganim in the heated mayoral race.
You and I both know what's going on in the city of Bridgeport and what's not going on. And I want to thank you for standing up and being out there, chasing calls, responding in neighborhoods, and getting the job done under some very difficult conditions.
The endorsement for Ganim was meaningful, but played down in both the media and by the opposition. Mayor Bill Finch was taking actions by increasing foot patrols in Trumbull Gardens, but to the leadership of the police union and its members, it was a little too late. It seemed as if the relationship between City Hall and police was fractured at best.
You got 68 votes. Finch got 1. Mary Jane Foster got 2.
I'm honored to have the support, overwhelming support of the Bridgeport Police Department.
Across the United States, gun violence, issues of race, and strategies to police urban areas are all issues that every politician and city leader is struggling with. To put Bridgeport into perspective, over the July 4th weekend in Chicago, 10 people were killed and 55 wounded in gun violence. Given the nickname Chirac for the violence that has plagued it, it begs the larger question that Mayor Bill Finch talks about: what are we doing about gun laws in this country? In city politics, creative and out-of-the-box thinking inside campaigns is often what dictates the message. On July 7th, after another shooting in Trumbull Gardens, Joe Ganim made a move that was thought-provoking and unorthodox.
All day, former Bridgeport Mayor Joe Ganim had his staff putting the finishing touches on his second campaign office, which will double as an unofficial police substation.
We've been after the administration and after the administration to do something. Finally, we decided to take action, positive action ourselves on behalf of the community.
9 shot, 1 murder, and then 2 weeks later, 50 feet away, someone else got shot. So a police substation will be great.
But unexpectedly, city officials held a hastily scheduled press briefing 2 hours before Ganim's substation opened to announce their own substation, located in the basement of a high-rise apartment building inside Trumbull Gardens.
The more the better, because at the end of the day, it's for the safety of them. The safety of them.
I really think it was very shallow of Bill Finch to react to something that Joe Ganim was doing genuinely from the heart.
With the Democratic Town Committee meeting on July 21st, it was obvious that Ganim was spinning the media and the grassroots inside Bridgeport in his favor.
You're welcome to come in all the time. Glad to see you out here. How you doing?
Very good.
Good to see you, man.
Let me announce our next mayor of the city of Bridgeport.
With news also breaking that Ganim had raised close to $223,000 in just a 2-month period. He was building a war chest that was gaining on Finch's $500,000.
To criticize me for my errors and my mistakes. Yes, we've made them.
District 134, Ganim.
Bill Finch. And it'll be up to the people of the city of Bridgeport to judge that. Along with the record of the most positive period of prosperity that this city has seen. Mayor Finch. We're on the right side of right.
Mayor Bill Finch.
I want a better Bridgeport, and we deserve a better city.
The Democratic Town Committee was the first benchmark in how close the mayoral race was. Early projections were that the votes were close, but one never knows in city politics which way people will vote.
Cynthia Magnin. Bill Finch.
We're one short and then a couple went the other way, obviously.
When the vote came down, incumbent Mayor Bill Finch had secured the nomination, but it was close.
It came up short. I will tell you, although we didn't have more votes, I'm just overwhelmed by the amount of support that we had, not only at the tables, but in the room.
7 years ago, I left the race for mayor in order to support Bill Finch. It was the biggest political mistake of my life.
I have never been involved with where there's so much enthusiasm for a challenger to a 2-term incumbent and where a vote is so close. If I was on the other side of this as a sitting incumbent, I would be somewhat defeated. It's the same thing tomorrow morning for both sides. I look forward to taking on the challenge of moving this city forward again.
After the vote, candidates who want to run in the primary September 16th need to secure 2,000 signatures from registered Democratic voters. Ganim hit the streets right away.
Our goal right now is to bang out signatures as fast as we can. I'm going to be out there getting signatures too. I don't want to be confined to this. I want a full voter list. I want to be able to run and roll from house to house, block to block. I mean, this campaign was always predicated upon a primary challenge with signatures. Going to the people, basically. Asking them, the voters of the Democratic Party, the people of the city of Bridgeport, for their support.
In the lead up to the town committee, Mayor Bill Finch and Adam Wood decided to launch a website, thetruthaboutjoeganim.com.
One of the things that drives me in this campaign is where mistakes were made. And there were some, and I've admitted them, and you've heard me time and time again, is to make right on those, and then to build on the great progress that we were in the midst of during the almost 12 years that I was mayor.
In late July, an email request to Adam Wood to have Mayor Finch and himself appear on City Wars went unanswered. City Wars producers offered a platform for the mayor to discuss various issues in the city and the campaign.
His handlers won't even let him talk anymore. You look at the paper, you won't see him getting quoted anymore.
When I call the city hall, every single person that I speak up doesn't live in Bridgeport.
Right.
They don't do purchase, they don't buy groceries, they don't put gas in Bridgeport. Yes, but they make a 6-digit salary here. Yeah. And they tell the mayor how to run us.
They're gonna put out his money report where he raised $500,000. 85% of the money came from out of town too. People from out of town, money from out of town. That's the whole problem. They don't even know the neighborhoods. They don't know what's going on in the city.
Are we giving our kids the best we can?
Mayor Finch organized an illegal takeover of the Bridgeport Public Schools.
It's a privatization movement, unregulated.
Crony capitalists and politicians alike are cashing in.
But that expansion has created serious competition for limited public resources.
I came here to improve academic achievement, and I have done it at every grade in every single school.
An attack on public education is an attack on democracy.
People of Bridgeport want a better city. They want better schools.
One issue that has not been discussed enough in the race for mayor is the current situation of the Bridgeport Public Schools.
They issued a report in early 2012 that stated that Bridgeport Public Schools was the most underfunded school district in the state of Connecticut on a cash basis. Bridgeport's underfunded by about $115 million per year.
Maria Pereira was an elected member of the Board of Education some 4 years ago.
I ran for the school board thinking I'm going to help make it better. And then I realized that being on the Bridgeport Board of Education generally has nothing to do with the 22,000 children in the public schools. It's about controlling a $237 million operating budget.
Pereira is once again seeking a seat on the school board.
We have political leaders who come to meetings, often unprepared, who don't know the issues at hand. Many of them have no children in the Bridgeport Public Schools.
Maria's work championing public education in Bridgeport brings up many questions as to the record of Bill Finch on education and whether the public school system is getting all the resources it needs.
He took office. He went to the school board and said, I'm asking you to give me $7 million back. The board said, we'll give you $2 to $3 million, that's it. So at the end of the school year, historically, school districts that have some funds left over spend it on supplies for the next school year, and it's perfectly legal. And under state law, the mayor cannot tell the Board of Education how to spend $1. As they were repeatedly trying to submit the invoices to spend that money, it was being rejected by the Finch administration. If you don't spend all your dollars by June 30th, guess where it goes? Back to the city. And that year alone, Mayor Finch received $7 million in a refund from the school board.
A place doesn't change overnight, but you can tell when a city's turned the corner.
While Finch celebrates public works projects and his campaign continues to issue press releases about the growth of Bridgeport,
this is where I want to raise my family. Bridgeport is getting better every day.
is the state of the public schools failing? And if so, who is going to speak out about it?
In the last 3 years, he's illegally underfunded the Bridgeport Public Schools by over $5 million. What happens when you severely underfund urban school districts, you have people point their fingers and say, your school district's a disaster. So we need massive privatization. We need charter schools.
The debate about charter schools in inner cities is a topic that is complex and with many layers of bureaucracy.
Whatever you think about the merit of charter schools versus public schools, merit is no longer driving the debate. What's driving the debate is money.
80% of the city education budget is funded by the state of Connecticut. Well, who's funding that? These are hedge funders from Lower Fairfield County. That's who's funding it. Residents of these affluent neighborhoods, they have skin in the game.
We have a leader now, a mayor, who has really, in my mind, put the Bridgeport Public Schools and our 22,000 Bridgeport Public School students up for sale. And the only people allowed to bid on them are the Greenwich millionaires and billionaires who support the massive education reform that's sweeping this country.
It is no secret that Mayor Finch has tried to take away the elected Board of Education, and his policies point to building more charter schools in the city.
The only thing that really serves as any type of opposition between privatization and the massive proliferation of charter schools is elected school boards.
The question remains, does public education suffer when more charter schools are built? Or are charter schools an answer to failing public education policy?
There are reasons why I refuse to support charter schools. Even though Bridgeport Public Schools only gets $8,600 per child, and the charter schools get $11,000 per child from the state, we have to pay for every dollar of their bus transportation. We have to pay every dollar of their special ed services. Over the next 5 years, these 6 charter schools are going to siphon almost $30 million away from the most underfunded school district in the state of Connecticut. Charter schools are bastions of segregation. The 4 charter schools we have data on are between 98.3% to 99.6% minority. The third thing is they consistently underserve the 3 subgroups that perform the worst on standardized tests and are the most expensive to teach. So our test scores are reflective of that, while you're taking really a lot of the cream of the crop.
With dropout rates hovering around 50% at Bridgeport high schools, the math is pretty straightforward. Any mayor who has been in office for 8 years and has neglected to fix or change that statistic should be ashamed of that record.
Now think about it. If we really supported education in the city, would we reduce the dropout rate? Would we reduce the percentage of our residents who go to prison? Would we reduce the people who need public assistance or public housing? Sure we would. If we ever become a really strong educated workforce in all the urban impoverished districts, that's going to hurt those people who care about profits, not about people.
More campaign press releases and talking about the Steel Point development doesn't fix root issues of the city, which starts and ends with the education of children.